Hi, welcome to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Thanks for joining the conversation. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Nice to see all of you. Actually, I'm seeing none of you, but nice to know that you're seeing me. Okay, enough of that. For those of you on the podcast today, listening in, tuning in, I thought I would talk a little bit about something that's been on my mind of late, and that is this small bottle here of Dit Da Jow. And Dit Da Jow is a special ancient Chinese secret medicine. Essentially, it is a medicine, and we use it actually to heal ourselves as martial artists. We use it to heal our bruises anytime we get kind of a strain or a pain. I've also seen traditional Chinese medicine doctors use this to do even greater lengths of healing, something I do not know much about. So I am not here to talk to you about medicine, but I am here to talk to you about what I've been having conversations with my dad about, which is his special secret formula of Dit Da Jow, because he does make his own. But Dit basically means to fall or get hurt, and Da means to hit. And so this liniment is very, very well known throughout the martial arts world. A lot of Kung Fu masters themselves, actually, back in the olden days, used to be doctors themselves of Chinese medicine. So you would find that in the daytime, they would practice Chinese medicine, treat patients, make a living, and then at night they would teach Kung Fu. And my father's red book has a whole chapter on Chinese medicine. And I was flipping through it and kind of refreshing and reading. And one of the maxims in here always talks about if you are a Kung Fu practitioner, before you study Kung Fu, you should study Chinese medicine. And back in the day, I actually thought that was going to be my path. I thought that I would be an acupuncture doctor, learn more about Chinese medicine, and obviously practice Chinese Kung Fu and teach Chinese Kung Fu. And I was going to be basically one of those old Chinese Kung Fu masters. But that did not happen. So one of the things that was interesting to me was learning a bit more about it, and one, why we use it, but also how can I adapt to using Dit Da Jow in my daily life. I know this sounds really weird, but bear with me. And how it kind of applies to me, because I've been having these philosophical conversations with my father, and he's kind of shared a lot about his reasons and the origin of how he kind of made his formula and everything. And for me personally, just so you know, I like I said, was really always very interested in this study, but because of kind of the pressures of needing to get that college degree and deciding to jump from high school straight into college and get that done, at the time, my university did not offer a quote unquote degree for acupuncture or Chinese medicine. And I planned to stay in Orlando to continue at the Temple and go Knights, University of Central Florida graduate, but it didn't offer this area of study. And I wanted that, what's now to me a useless piece of paper. No offense to those that have really big, amazing pieces of paper that allows you doctors, lawyers, and engineers to do what you do. But for me, I realized it was more about what I thought I needed to do versus what maybe would have benefited me best. So now, don't get me wrong, again, college is fantastic for people to learn, grow, be in an environment where others can inspire you to ask questions and learn more about yourself. I just feel that maybe it's not for everybody. Maybe that there are other paths that we shouldn't have students feel pressured to take just because it seems like the next quote unquote logical step. But I digress. For me personally, I am an impatient person. Those of you who watched my birthday episode maybe remember that I came out of the womb kicking. I was really impatient. I wanted to get into this world, get going, get started. And so my journey kind of pushed me in that direction where I finished high school, I jumped into college, I got my degree, and honestly, I graduated early, not because I am that studious or quote unquote smart, but because I am, again, impatient. So what happened was the Wallum School was hosting Tournament 2000, and I graduated in 1999 from UCF, and I was supposed to graduate in 2000, but because I knew I was going to be the tournament director, I needed to host this huge international event. I was like, well, I need that 6 months to prepare in 2000. I'm not going to have time for school. So let me just push and graduate and finish. And so I did. Yay me. But Tournament 2000 was actually the very first and last international large scale tournament to be held by Wallam. I know there were some other ones back in the day in the 80s and 70s where they were like Chinatown stuff, but this was where we hosted people from all over the world. There were grandmasters, masters, kung fu, tai chi, just from the entire system throughout the world, and just so many people. We had a true 1,000 competitors, and for that time, that was unheard of. We actually hosted it at the UCF gymnasium, which I believe is no longer used for a gymnasium, but at that time we hosted, over, I think, almost 30 rings, and it was really crazy. Quick fun fact for you. My husband, Oscar, co-host of this podcast at times and my partner in crime, we weren't dating at the time, but I wasn't as good at delegating back then, and myself and my cousin and his wife, we were working at like 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning the night before the event, trying to get the rings and categories situated. And I called Oscar in to bring in reinforcements to get us some food, and he brought us food at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, then ended up staying with us to write up all the divisions and get all the envelopes together. And should have known then, right, that he was all in. So it was kind of a very memorable time. But in any case, I definitely was dying to get out of school so that I could get to work on this big tournament. And so I did. And from there, honestly, I did get a little burnt out, and I jumped into other things with film and my entertainment career, and story for another time. But essentially, what that kind of translated to for me was that I wanted to just be working and to be busy, and wanted to kind of move on from quote unquote school. I'm going to be very honest. I could have studied Chinese medicine at any point in time, not just after college or during college or at any of the 20 plus past 30 years since I graduated. But like, I honestly don't love school. I don't like the pressure of tests. I never liked the format of learning in that type of environment. So it just never really spoke to me. I enjoy learning, but I definitely clearly like to do it on my own time. But one of the things that I discovered as I've been talking to my father about this Dit Da Jow is that every style and every Kung Fu system has their own special formula. In addition, every family, like you'll often find that this is a family medicine that gets passed down from generation to generation, and it is a secret. And definitely back in the day, women were not allowed to learn the secrets. But family and Kung Fu style, meaning that the formula was actually made specifically for the system. So in Wallam, we have a lot of low movements, leg work, really intense things that probably work the joints. Not that other styles don't, but my father, tapered our formula, and it's probably changed. I bet if I had a vintage bottle from 1975 to now, I bet it would be very, very different, because he basically would take the ingredients that he felt was the most beneficial for what we needed. And I find that interesting because it means it's custom, right? And I love custom things. But also, one of my very dear friends who knows a lot more about Dit Da Jow and Chinese medicine, Dr. Mark Chang, shout out to you, who always engages with me in these conversations, and I appreciate that, helps me think of questions to ask my dad. But one of the things is also where you live. So we're here in South Florida. We're here in Florida. It's down south. There's a lot of different ingredients that are accessible. And so it depends what you have access to. One of the things I learned about was that these herbalists, I mean, we're talking decades and decades ago, and even back in ancient times, these herbalists wouldn't necessarily sell the herbs to just anyone. So you had to have a rapport or a standing, or, just if you know, be able to go in and say, I want XYZ ingredient. And then you were either told, I'm sorry, it's out of stock, I don't know who you are, or Yeah, step out over into the special herbal room where we have all the good stuff and you would be sold the proper ingredients. So you really had to have a relationship with your herbalist. You had to know and have the resources to get the ingredients. And for my father, what he did over his career was actually seek out all the top Chinese medicine doctors and herbalists. And he told me he learned from all of them because my father, once again, of course, we talk about how remarkable he is, but he only went to like first or second grade in terms of education. But he was able to learn things through his ability to create relationships and his ability to communicate with others and basically get people to like him or think he's so cool that they want to help him. But he became a Dit Da master himself and was able to heal himself and others. And one of the things in Chinese martial arts is that, you know, the saying is before you study Kung Fu, you need to study Chinese medicine. The reason is because you need to be able to heal yourself because you're almost guaranteed to have an injury, whether it's a minor injury or whether it's something more serious. But being able to heal ourselves is so essential. Being able to just be able to kind of know like our own bodies and have that self-awareness. That's part of the martial arts journey, right? Being a martial artist doesn't just mean kicking and punching and getting more flexible, but it's also like awareness of who we are physically and, in my opinion, also spiritually, emotionally, and being able to heal ourselves. Part of the Dit Da culture is also healing others. So back in the day, my father would have lines and lines of, I'm going to say it, old Asian people that would bring him Chinese, you know, roast pork buns and bags of rice and be like, oh, I have arthritis. Or yes, I have actually seen him treat a broken leg before. Not advised. I definitely would never do something like that. But it was just part of the culture to seek out a master that knew how to heal or knew about these types of remedies, because there was also, I think, a bit of a mistrust, but a communication barrier between Western doctors and the Asian American population, especially, you know, immigrants that came over, right? There was always a barrier of language, and we still find that today. And a lot of the issues that we're having today is, you know, because of the barrier of language. And so because they felt comfortable with him and trusted him, and probably because they would rather pay in pork buns, he was treating people for decades. And he has retired from doing that now. I think there's a lot to be said for, there are herbal doctors out there that you can seek out, and acupuncturists and amazing doctors like Dr. Mark Chang that you can go to for your actual issues. But I think the cool thing is at the core of it is the philosophy, right? The philosophy of healing yourself and healing others. And that is one of the philosophies that I've been thinking about a lot lately. As I prepare, actually every 3 years, the Wallam Temple recertifies all of its instructors to maintain the standard in the system, but also for us to just have a family reunion. We get together, we train together, we work together. And as I've been rereading this book, as I do at least every 3 years, if not in between then, also available as an audiobook on Amazon, by the way, quick plug. But I've been looking into that chapter on Chinese medicine, and it's just fun because there's a little snippets of stories, right? There's little snippets of stories where this is actually just a compilation of lectures my father gave in the 70s. So it's not like a gripping narrative story by any means, but it has a real wealth of information. You know, some of the language is a bit outdated. Please remember 60s, 70s, but the information here still holds true, right? Like healing yourself is important. And one of the biggest philosophies in this to me has been, why do you study martial arts? And it's to become a better person, to better yourself, to learn all of the philosophies that we teach. And it certainly is something that I think fueled my impatience for not wanting to be in school and for wanting to get out there and just quote unquote get my life started. I was excited to run the tournament. I was excited to be more hands-on, teach at the temple full time. And whether I am teaching, I'm cooking, whether I'm doing social justice work, podcasting, filmmaking, any of these things that I have decided to take on, at the core of it is, you know, my martial arts training and wanting to be a better person, become more enriched by every single action that I take. And I think one of the things that really pushes me isn't just the Chan family gene of not being able to sit still, but is the core of like, how can I be a better person? What can I do on a daily basis to be 1% better? And Oscar and I often talk about that on this podcast a lot. Like, we think and hope that for our students that that's what they're gaining, that it's not just the physicality of the kicking and the punching and the hardcore training, but it's how can we bridge the connection between healing or bettering ourselves or learning, or however you want to describe it, ourselves inside as well as outside. And I think that what's interesting about Dit Da is that whole falling down and getting hit, and then the Jow, the liniment, is like that healing to kind of put it all together. I really feel like the concept for me, because I can heal myself a bit. I know how to do the basic massage to use the Dit Da Jow, but I certainly am not taking any treatment for pork buns or for Chinese veggies in exchange to help anyone else. But I think that for me, I translate the principles of Dit Da into my social justice work, for example, or in any way that I feel like I can extend myself to not just heal myself, and in the process also help others, right? That principle of how can I utilize the resources I have, the abilities I have, the things I've learned to be able to help others. And definitely for me, these last 3 years, especially as I've been so active in advocacy, I feel like that is my Dit Da Jow. That is my way of blending the traditional with the modern world, which has not always been easy. And I've always been very interested in helping others, because as a martial artist and growing up in that environment, we were taught, bullies are bad. Martial artists protect others that can't protect themselves, that we advocate and help others that can't protect themselves. Or maybe it's not that they can't protect themselves, but are being oppressed, that are being attacked. And this is not a political podcast in any way. These are not political statements. To me, what I am sharing right now is all about humanity and human statements. Every day at the Kung Fu School, we look at our martial arts altar and we recite things like respect and learning kindness and fellowship and hard work and self-control and patience, and that we are a family system. And then we pay respects to our ancestors and think about our moment in time and being grateful for that, right? And so that practice to me very much reflects what I think being a martial artist is. And to me, that really is interwoven with the social justice work that I do. And so I think I was always interested. I always worked towards that. But after 2016, I really felt like I was in a position where America had voted in someone that, to me, did not uphold any of those principles. To me, did not want to uplift those that couldn't help themselves, or to protect those that are being oppressed. But I really felt like it was the opposite. My sister always said it best at that time, because people would ask her about voting in the election and things like that. And her simple response was that she didn't feel someone who made fun of disabled people should be the president. And that was perfectly put, right? And so, again, this isn't about politics. This is just about thinking about the simple philosophy of, are we respectful? Are we kind? Do we have fellowship? Are we working hard? And are we protecting ourselves and others and having control and all these things? And so when I see things and saw things and experienced empathy for the communities that were really hurting after the murder of George Floyd, or the overturning of Roe v. Wade, like, that's where my activism side really kicks in. And activism is the act of taking an action for, like, maybe political, yes, or social change, right? And wanting to show up to marches or show up to environments that were going to speak out on these issues, right? Advocacy is joining an organization or a group or an individual and kind of working on behalf of that and making change in that way. Both, I think, are really, really valuable. And so after all of these events, I really feel like my activism and advocacy side kicked in, because as a Kung Fu teacher, I felt like these are the same principles that we're teaching alongside society, and that they could kind of be blended. And so for me, starting Make Us Visible Florida here after the rise of the anti-Asian American hate crimes, anti-Asian hate crimes, just all of the violence that we saw was so frustrating that I decided, okay, activism for certain things, advocacy for this. I thought education was the key. And so, of course, the last 3 years of my life, I dedicated to passing this law that now requires students here in Florida to learn Asian American history. And people say, well, what change is that going to make? What difference is it going to make? Well, for one, getting anything done in government is like a short miracle. Getting it done in Florida is a double miracle. But it truly, I believe, in the same way that my father escaping to the United States to share his art with the world has impacted so far beyond anything he could have imagined. All the people that he's taught and inspired to go off and be change makers or do things or be good family members, or anything that Walam has been, an impression or made an impact on, I really feel like he has no idea how many millions of people he's affected. And I really believe that the law I passed, I believe that the work that I'm doing hopefully will have that same long-lasting impact, and that I can continue to apply the principle of Dit Da Jow to society, and that Walam will continue on in perpetuity because of the work we do, and not just because it's a really cool Kung Fu system, which it is, but also because of the principles that we stand for the reasons and the motivation by which I hope my students also continue on. And so, I kind of challenge all martial artists not to a sparring match or a fight. At our school, we have these open peacock feathers, and back in the day, that meant, yep, it's on, like, challenge is accepted. And I think we're in a different society now. Like, I don't think that we need to fight with our fists. I think we need to do so with our hearts and our minds. And I feel like being change makers, making a difference, and making an impact that will be long lasting is the challenge there, right? So I challenge martial artists to kind of think about that, and hopefully something that I am honestly challenging myself to do is to constantly see how I can continue to make those differences and use my Dit Da, not the literal Dit Da Jow, but like if someone is being attacked or falling down, then I can help them up. And I just wanted to share those thoughts with you all today, and I hope that it sparks some conversation or some questions and thoughts on what it really means to be a martial artist and what that means for you, and how you can take one small principle of martial arts, like this is a small facet, the medicine and the healing and the Dit Da Jow, right? It is one small facet of the practice, and then how that can be applied. Because we talk about Kung Fu meaning hard work, and how can you apply that to your daily life? Well, hard work, it's so easy. It means I'm gonna be better at my job. It means gonna be good with my family and work hard and help out. But like every facet of martial arts, every facet of what we study has so much deeper meaning and has the ability to do more than just better ourselves. I think the Red Book was right. I think it was good, and the main goal of being a martial artist is to better yourself. And the second part of that is, after you better yourself, then how can you use that to help others, and how can you use that to make the world a better place? So hopefully I wasn't rambling too much today. And if you're interested, the Red Book is absolutely available. Unfortunately, I am the reader for the audiobook, but if you're interested, it is on Amazon. I'll link that. And the Dit Da Jow, honestly, we have it available at the Walam Temple as well. Don't drink it, please. It says here on here, external use only, do not drink. But it smells delightful in terms of rich and different and medicinal. But it is a lot of fun to kind of explore the depth behind a lot of these these things that we kind of just pass by on a daily basis and take for granted. So that is my brain thoughts for today, and I hope you've enjoyed the podcast thus far. Shout out to one of my newest Patreons. Thank you to Sharon Bronson, Darth Shader, one of our favorites here in Orlando, another local business. So support that. Thank you for being a patron of the show. Those of you that enjoy the work I do, not just the podcast, but all of the work I do, you can also become a patron of the show by visiting my website. There's a link, or patreon.com/SifuMimiChan. I absolutely appreciate it. The patrons are actually the ones that enable this podcast to continue, because it takes editing, it takes all this other internet magic for this to happen. And I am super grateful that I'm able to have this platform to share and to express a lot of the thoughts that I've been having, especially post 2016, which is when this podcast started. So thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Please subscribe and rate my podcast on your platform of choice and leave a review. You can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/SifuMimiChan to help keep this podcast going. Follow me and interact on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Instagram or Facebook.